Round here, them guns get the last word.
A question that I think is interesting to ask is, will Tekken 8 be as successful as Tekken 7? Tekken 7 is the undisputed most successful Tekken game ever made, and I would argue possibly fighting game ever made. The budget that was used to make Tekken 7, and you compare that to the profits, it is a monstrous difference. And I don't know, like, if you compare Tekken 8's budget, will they be able to make that same margin of profit back? For example, let's say if it takes $2 to make Tekken 7 and they make $10 profit. Tekken 8, it probably costs $10 to make it. So how much profit would they need to make for it to be the same comparatively? I don't know if Tekken 8 will be able to do it. I think the game will be super successful, but I don't know, like, what Tekken 7 did was crazy, bro. And I think there's a few reasons why Tekken 7 was successful like the way it is. First off, you got to talk about Street Fighter 5 being trash. And I know people try to say, oh, the game is better now at the end of this. Like, no, bro. Street Fighter 5 is trash. That game was trash. It's trash, and it will always be trash. Mortal Kombat 11, even though that game was so much better, so much more successful, it still wasn't as good as Mortal Kombat should be. So basically, Tekken 7 didn't really have that good of a competition like Tekken 8 does. Tekken 8 has Street Fighter 6, Mortal Kombat 1, and a Project L. They have tough competition. So I think that's also something that we need to factor into the whole, will Tekken 8 do the same numbers? I don't know, bro. It's a tough question, and in today's video, that's what I want to try to ask. I seen a post on the Tekken subreddit. This is from Pink Pugita. I recognize this name. I probably made videos in the past about different ideas this person came up with, but here's another amazing one. Analysts, Tekken 8 would need at least 4 million copies sold to be considered a success. Now, 4 million copies isn't that much. Tekken 7, I believe Tekken 7 sold 3 million copies within the first 2 months. But I think Tekken 8 can definitely do this. 4 million copies, it's a piece of cake. A few times in the sub, people ask how much should Tekken 8 sell to break even, and thus I made an analyst. Disclaimer, I'm not working in the game industry and I have zero inside information. However, I do profitability and financial analysis every day in my profession. So this person I would consider an expert. Something else we got to keep in mind, breaking even is not considered a success. Companies, they want to double, quadruple, triple their profits. When you hear about a movie spending $200 million budget and then they make $200 million in tickets, it's considered a flop. They don't like breaking even. They like making way more. Also, you can factor in the prices of Tekken 8 itself. $110, $130. The collectors is $300. All of that stuff is them trying to recoup their investment. Like, if you think about it, they often talk about how expensive the game is, and you know they're going to want to make that money back tenfold. Whether it be DLC, a battle pass, they're going to do everything they can to make that investment back. And I would say also another thing that Harada and the devs are doing is making a good game. And I'm grateful for that, because a lot of companies, they don't make good games. They make trash games and they just try to make sure the store runs perfectly. So at least Tekken is making sure the game is fun, and then they could do all the aggressive monetization stuff in the background. But let's continue reading. In an obscure 2021 Japanese interview, Harada disclosed the minimal budget of a fighting game. If you invest 1 billion yen, which is basically $9 million, you have to sell 1 million games. The current game industry is a business that requires 2 million sales if you invest 2 million yen. You can't make a new game with 1 billion yen. Development budget would be too frank. There's probably no fighting game that could be made on 1 billion yen. A lot of you may remember this discussion. This is also the same discussion where Harada said it cost roughly $500,000 to make a stage. It costs more to make one character from scratch. You talk about the moveset, move list, voice acting, mocap, everything. A lot of players say there's no way it costs $500,000 to make one stage and more to make a character. But Harada's just not throwing out numbers. This guy, this is his life, you know? The interview does not disclose the real budget of Tekken 7 and whether the copies sold they disclose is actually breaking even or a target ROI. In the same interview, Harada said, okay, yeah, they're talking about exactly. Tekken 7 can cost around $180,000. However, in another tweet in 2019, he said it can cost 50 million yen, roughly $340,000. Characters cost a lot more. A few months after Tekken 7 was released, Harada publicly celebrated 3 million copies for Tekken 7 7 in Twitter. Note that while he already passed the 2 million sales, it can be taken that he passed at a rate of sales rather than total figures. Here they give 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 bullet points. These are all things we talked about in the past. You have the price of stage, you have AAA games, you have development and marketing, a lot of cool information in here, but for the sake of time, I cannot break down all of this. Pause and read this if you would like, but let's move on to Tekken 7. So based on this table, I made the assumption at 3 million copies, the developers made the same amount of money as their budget on development and marketing. Note that publishers should make the marketing costs generally, but Tekken has the same publisher as developer, Bandai Namco, so this saves them some money. For Tekken 8, I have different assumptions. 1. Has doubled the cost of Tekken 7 due to inflation and generally bigger budget. And they base this on Spider-Man 1 for PS4, $100 million to create. Spider-Man 2 for PS5, $200 million. So the price is going up. So at the assumed $120 million budget for Tekken 8 sales would need to be $4 million. My projection for 15 million copies sold offshoots the reported $500 million profit for MK11 for Warner after selling 15 million copies. They also give a link from GamesRant that talks about the 15 most expensive games ever made. Now, this is a little outdated because we know GTA 6 is going to be the most expensive ever. That game, I think it has $1 billion budget or something like that. But GTA 5, they have $137 million. So you can see how much the price of it increased. Destiny 1, $140. Red Dead Redemption 2, $170 million. You can just see how the price just goes up and up and up. And some of these games are very old. Tekken 8 is going to be very ambitious in what it tries. Arcade Quest, even though a lot of people roll their eyes at it, it looks like something that Tekken has never even considered doing. It looks ambitious is the word that I can only use to describe it. And then also building everything from scratch using Unreal Engine 5, the game's going to be wildly expensive. They have another screenshot here where you talk about Tekken 7 and the copies sold, development, marketing. They have everything broken. They also have a comparison to Tekken 8. You can see where it says break even. This is the part where we want to highlight how much does Tekken need to sell in order to beat one Tekken 7, but also just be considered on its own. We have all of these tweets and information from Harada, but do you think Tekken 8 will sell more copies than Tekken 7, but also do you think the game will be more successful, more DLC sold, more players playing, more people watching tournaments? There's a lot of hurdles and a lot of questions that Tekken 7 ran into and it was not ready to answer. But Tekken 8 is being built from the ground up to tackle all of these issues. And I feel like if Tekken 7 didn't have a problem with cheaters and crashing and all of this stuff, the game could have been way bigger in my opinion. A lot of wind was taken out of the sails by the game just not performing the way it should. So Tekken 8 doing that all on its own will put this game far ahead in my opinion. One thing that I will say that Tekken 8 has over Tekken 7 is community favor. A lot of people didn't even know Tekken Tag Tournament 2 existed, also Tekken Revolution. So Tekken 7 had to build a lot of its hype and its momentum on its own. Tekken 8 is lucky. Tekken 7 did all the hard labor and is simply passing the torch. Everyone's excited for Tekken 8 and already pre-ordering it, and it's a massive community waiting for the game to release. It's very different from when Tekken 7. There was die-hard players, but you did not have an endless amount of people waiting to buy the game day one. And I feel like that is going to make a huge difference when you talk about the longevity of this game. Times has changed, and Tekken 8, it seems like it's ready to embrace the new era of gaming. I hope it is. I hope it can live up to everything that we are demanding and expecting out of this game.